Hey folks, another reviewer here. Today we continue preparing for my review of Eschalon Book 3 by going through the plot of Eschalon Book 2. Now, for those of you that have just found this video, there's actually a plot recap of Eschalon Book 1 on my channel that you can start with, or if you haven't seen the reviews yet, there's also the reviews of Eschalon Book 1 and 2 if you want to start there. But anyway, this is the plot of Eschalon Book 2, which you can skip this if you don't want this plot spoiled and skip right on to the review of Eschalon Book 3. But it's just that, I have to explain that whenever I went to review Eschalon Book 3 initially, I realized that it would be a really long review if I didn't do this sort of thing, where I explained the plots of Book 1 and 2. And I had actually realized whenever I went to review Eschalon Book 3 that it had been so long since I've played those two games that I didn't really remember the plots of those games. So this is also a refresher for me to jog my memory as well. But the best way to make the things I have to say about Eschalon Book 3 make sense, we have to continue going through the plots of the games that came before in the series. So now we are going to talk about the plot of Eschalon Book 2. The game starts off reminding you that you return the Crux of Ages to the Bastion Spire, so that Theramore can recover from the Goblin invasion. Unfortunately, despite that, everything still seemed to fall apart. It mentions distrust fracturing Theramore's council, but I'm not entirely sure why. It's not something that's explained in the first games. You don't even see the council in the first game. Everything just seems honky-dory. You explain your story and then move on. I mean, the only thing that would really make sense is if the members of the council are also the members of the churches, or Bethels, as they called them in the game, and Father Michael being one of the people that was conspiring against the people for Gramick to build portals. You know what? I've just realized I am editorializing way too much to make this game's plot make sense. They just told you that there was distrust within the council, and that's just what we're going to have to believe. Basically, the region wasn't ready for another attack, but word had spread that an army was rising from the south, the government was disbanded for some reason, and Theramore just started to fall apart. You decided shit was going to hit the fan, so you fled, rendering the entire adventure we went through in the first game completely useless. I mean, the 30 people you ran into in the region of Theramore couldn't seem to hold it together. And what is with this council and government or whatever disbanding and shit? It's like, I can understand the Commonwealth Guard being pissed off because they were chasing shadows underground. Jesus, did they finally find out that the Chancellor was a complete useless idiot without this crux? Is that the problem? You'll never know, as just before Theramore was attacked, you jumped ship and made your way north to Mistfell. With the war in Theramore nothing more than a rumor to you now, you purchase a cottage near a village called East Willow, and spend your days fishing and trying not to let the fate of Theramore ruin what life you've made here. 2 years after you left Theramore, you wake up in the morning from a heavy sleep. You apparently have had a hard time adjusting to quiet life after what you've been through, still swearing that you hear whispers in the shadows. You leave your front door to find a strange note. It's from a man named Darius, who requests to speak to you at the Wayfarer's Jolly, which is the inn at East Willow. Oh my god, I can't believe it! I finally got a note from someone else! So far I've only been getting notes from myself! I'm very lonely. You can also find your journal in your nightstand. Upon reading it, you find that your memories of Theramore are fading, as are the skills you acquired there. You attribute this to the memory erasing serum that was apparently also untested. Where did I get this serum anyway? Did I make it? I really don't think any of the games address this. You go to meet Darius, and he reveals to you that you knew each other before the events in Theramore. Apparently everything you had done there was a part of an even bigger plan than the first game had led on. He recaps the events of the previous game with a very abridged version, and then explains that the Thorax are the ones that now have the Crux of Ages. Even Gramick, the goblin shaman that served as the antagonist of the last game, was under the control of a general who is now leading the Thorax. Darius continues to explain that having the Crux of Ages is giving the Thorax an edge that is allowing them to become more organized and tactful. Yet when I had it, nothing. Darius believes they're actually after something more than just spreading influence, and what they're looking for, you've been sworn to protect. Apparently. This is where you find out that there are 3 other Crux along with the Crux of Ages, and for 4 centuries, this guild you're apparently a part of has been keeping them apart. Once joined, they create a device of great power that cannot be contained. The guild is called the Crius Vindica, and you were bound to it through lineage. You being in Theramore was all part of a plan to secure the Crux of Ages. Apparently the memory erasing serum you took was to protect the guild, but fat little good that did when your brother, also a member of the guild, was captured. He tells you that you are needed to rejoin the guild to take on the Tarax and once again reclaim the Crux of Ages, as just then an arrow comes flying through the window and kills Darius. No! No, friend! If you loot him, you find the arrow that killed him along with a strange viewing glass with mysterious etchings all over it. If you take it to Elenice at the magic shop, she'll tell you to take it back to the owner of the shop, her Uncle Minos. She informs you that he lives west of East Willow in a house on the shores of Green Riven Lake, but be careful as some black mold has been lurking there. When you find him, you present the viewing glass to him. He informs you that the markings on the rim are glyphs from an unspoken language. Roughly translated, they say, Paladin of Sunder, Guardian of Unity. The etchings on the glass form a guild or society symbol, but he's not familiar with the symbol. When you ask him what the viewing glass is used for, he tells you a multitude of things, from decoding confidential information to revealing the location of a hidden door. He warns you that you may never find out, as guilds tend to just fade over time, but if you really must know, you should consult St. Gilhelm of Loxton Hall Academia within Port Cudad, making sure to tell him that Minos has sent you. Upon reaching Port Cudad, you request that the guard open the gate for you to pass. He tells you that you need a citizen's writ. You find one on a corpse surrounded by red wolves in Wolfenwood. There are other ways that you can obtain a citizen's writ, however, they're a bit more complicated. I mean, first off, you can give the guard 2,000 gold, which is complicated by the fact that that's a lot of gold at this point in the game. Or you can go to Broken Blade and fend off a bunch of Goliath boarheads to find not only one, but 2 citizen's writs there. The only problem is, Goliath boarheads are, if not the most annoying, then one of the most annoying enemies in the entire game. Anyway, once you get your paperwork dealt with and are able to enter Port Cudad, you find and enter the Loxton Hall Academia, and find that it's a massive library holding all of the history and knowledge of possibly all of Eschalon. When you find St. Gilhelm, you inform him who you are and who sent you. You present him with the viewing glass, and at first he suspects you to be a thief or a murderer. You explain that you were discussing with the original owner your involvement with the guild moments before he was assassinated. Fortunately, St. Gilhelm believes you and explains that it's a scrying tool of the Crius Vindica. He asks if you are involved with the guild, and upon confirming this, he reiterates what you were told about what would happen if the 4 Crux were brought together, and that the Torax are attempting to do so. He explains that the viewing glass will help you find the entrance of the guild by going to the area mentioned on the rim. 4 and 31, a night's stay north by sail. Beyond the teeth of the beast, you will find the mouth. Wow, that's an actual mystery that we can try and wrap our heads around. Or at least it would be if this St. Gilhelm guy didn't already know absolutely everything. He explains to you that it sounds like it's referring to the Forsaken Coast that you'll find north of Port Cudad. The jagged rocks in that area have been described as teeth. He tells you to go there and look through the glass to find the entrance to the guild. No, yeah, it's fine. I probably would have never figured that out. I mean, it's not like I talked to every NPC in this game, and, if the clues would have been there and lined up, I'm sure I would have probably never come to this conclusion on my own. As you walk around town, you'll find another familiar face. Captain Morgan, the guy you stole the key to get into Krakemir from. He's still a drunk, but now he's begging on the streets. He doesn't seem to remember you, which is probably for the best, as he continues to explain that he was given a dishonorable discharge despite preventing the enemy from spilling into Misfell. When you ask him why he was discharged, he explains that he lost the key to the gate to Krakemir, and instead of being locked tightly, preventing the second invasion of Theramore by the Tarax, it was wide open, and Tarax poured through it by the hundreds. Ah, shit. I must have left that detail out when I was explaining everything to the Council and the Bastion Spire at the end of the last game. Oh, that's definitely my bad. Yeah. Anyway, upon entering the Forsaken Coast, you find it populated by mire trolls that are able to regenerate their health after so many turns. Fortunately for me, they're frightened by fire, so I had very little difficulty with them. If you use the viewing glass, the refracted light will lead you where to go. Once you get to the rocks the glass is pointing to, you find it's just a tarpaulin painted to look like the rocks around it, covering a staircase that leads into a narrow tunnel underground. I like the Crius Vindica so far. They study under the same school as Wile E. Coyote. After you make your way through the entrance of the guild, you find the guildmaster, Corin. He welcomes you as well as introduces you to Erebor, whom you met in your previous adventure. He explains the things that Darius had told you before with a little more detail and history, reiterating that there are 4 Crux Stones, and if they were to be united, a great destructive power would be created. He also tells you that your involvement this far into recovering the Crux has been unintended. They were going to let you carry out your life, presumably after the events at Theramore. Actually, the more I think about it, I don't think the guild really was involved any further past, you taking the serum. They seem to have a pretty hands-off approach on things other than Erebor's involvement, which was pretty minimal, actually. When you ask about Darius, Corin explains that he is one of their finest members, and he's one of many guildsmen that they've lost over the last 4 years. He postulates that the war that brought down Theramore is fast approaching Mistfell. When you ask for more information about the Crux, Corin tells you that, as you already know, the Crux of Ages was once stored in the Bastion Spire of Theramore, but it's now in the hands of the Torax in their stronghold in Amareth. The Crux of Fire is held by the Dwarves of Norland, and the Crux of Wisdom is held by a warlord in Beria. No one knows where the 4th Crux, the Crux of Terra, is being held. This is when you find out that General Gore is the one that sent the goblins to Theramore, and is currently the one leading the Torax to collect the Crux Stones. He tells you he doesn't know why General Gore wants to collect all the Crux Stones, but regardless, due to the threat bringing them together poses, we have to stop them. In order to do so, Corin decides to enact a plan that's as old as the guild itself, reserved for when the threat of the Crux Stones coming together is far too high, called the Terminal Contingency. What is the terminal contingency, you might be asking? Well, it's quite simple, really. It's only the last hope that Eschalon has, a solution that has been avoided for centuries by the guild. They have to destroy one of the Crux Stones. Now, of course, in order to destroy a Crux, you have to get it first, but the issue is, which one? With the current situations of all the stones, the only one that seems plausible is to steal the Crux of Fire from the Dwarven mine of Hammerlorn. I can't put my finger on it, but this sounds suspiciously familiar. Corin finally tells you that in order to put this plan into motion, you have to go to Broken Blade to meet up with a fellow guild member named Sparrow. She was apparently already sent to, and subsequently had successfully gotten a key to the Dwarven mines, so you just have to go to her and give her the code word Silverhawk, and she'll give you the key. After doing this, you can go to Raven's Gate, onto the Dwarven village of Dunmore, and from there into the Hammerlorn mine for the Crux of Fire. You could also speak to Erebor, but he's really only there to continue a side quest you could have picked up at the beginning of the game to hunt down Darius' assassin. Once you find Sparrow in her home in Broken Blade, she threatens you for entering. You give her the code word Silverhawk, but instead of giving you the key, she starts talking about how the One will be coming for the Crux of Fire and his armies will wash over this land like a swarm of ants upon a dead crow. She explains to you that she's no longer part of the guild and will only give the key to someone called the One, and that he will purify the wretched land. He's not going to destroy, and only those that oppose him should fear him, and etc. Yada yada, whatever. Typical cult religious nut job mumbo jumbo. We don't even know who the One is yet! Come on, man! Anyway, she attacks you. Obviously, the only thing you can do now is kill her so you can take the Dwarven mine key. Unfortunately, the first time I killed her in a place where I couldn't pick up the loot she dropped, so I had to reload and do it again. I know that has nothing to do with the plot, it just really pissed me off. If you head to the northwest end of Mistfell, you find Raven's Gate, an underground tunnel between there and Norland, the snowy region to the north. You're once again asked to present your Citizen's Writ, which you should still have from entering Port Cudod. The weather is quite unforgiving in Norland, and you don't want to break a potential side quest later, so you accept a ride from Osgood, a caravan leader who tells you he runs regularly between Raven's Gate and Dunmore. Seems worth the 50 gold. Once arriving in Dunmore, you can talk to the leader of the village, who will tell you that the mines are a sacred place, not for you to enter, and you will find yourself very unwelcome there. You know, I feel pretty uneasy about this quest. I mean, all you're asking me to do is tread around on their most sacred of holy ground and then steal their most prized ancient artifact. I mean, I was in a region where this happened, and I can tell you on good authority that it really, really sucks. I mean, to the point where I had to wipe out my own fucking memory, for Christ's sake. As you approach the Dwarven Mine entrance, you find it's a huge granite tower with a single piece of burly oak wrapped with bands of dwarven steel, impenetrable with no keyhole. You walk around the side and find a much less impressive door that you have the key for. Once entering the mine, the dwarves attack you, so you have to fight your way through the initial living area. Now bear in mind, once you progress past the first area of this mine, there's no going back except for going forward, so make sure when you enter, you're enter prepared. As you progress, you find more puzzles, traps, and monsters. There's one particular pair of portals that claims that one path offers the chance of success, the other most certain death. But it's not really true. If you make the quote-unquote wrong choice, you get a prompt saying that skeletal remains litter several of these rooms and they've been here for years. It suggests that you've made the wrong decision. No enemies, no treasures, no traps, no anything. Just a load of relatively empty cells. So it's time to reload, right? Well, no. You can just walk through a false wall in one of the cells to a teleporter that takes you directly to where you would have gone if you chose the correct teleporter, in the middle of a room full of sentinel stalks. Okay, now I'm confused. How is having to run from or fend off about a dozen enemies with ranged attacks not the certain death option? Anyway, once you get through it, you find the sacred hall of the mine called Vinhalu. As you explore, you find that it's a massive crypt for dwarves that you have to wander around pulling levers to open gates in various places to make it to a set of stairs that take you down to level 3, which seems to be storage. You know, I've been exploring this mine for quite a while now, and there seems to be something missing, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I don't know, could it be the fucking mine? After being trapped in a chamber with about half a dozen devil manders and another lever puzzle, you get to the actual mine of the Hammerlord mine where you find and steal the Crux of Fire. The dwarves are obviously not happy with this and mobilize to kill you. So you continue to murder more innocent folks that at the end of the day are just defending their sacred ground as well as their own property. Yeah, never really thought about it that way, did you? You take the Crux of Fire back to Corin, and as overwhelmed as he is at seeing one up close, he lets you know that he and Erebor had been researching how to destroy a Crux, and unfortunately the only thing strong enough to do the job are the Crux stones themselves. The only way to destroy the Crux is putting it edge to edge with another Crux. Okay, so first of all, you never actually thought to look into this before you sent me in there to do it, and now you're telling me that you might need another Crux? Okay, listen, so I've already got ton of innocent blood on my hands from the swath of dwarves I had to kill in order to steal one of their most precious artifacts while defiling the shit out of their holiest of grounds. Okay, so I'm gonna need a little more effort from you here. I mean, I thought we were only trying to destroy one Crux. What are we doing here? If you set them edge to edge, will it destroy them both? Do you get to choose one? I mean, if having all four together has this huge cataclysmic event, what happens when you bring only two together, aside from destroying them? Unfortunately, the game only answers one of these questions, saying that you're going to have to go to Amareth to get the Crux of Ages and put the Crux edge to edge in the Tarak Stronghold Talus Horn. You're not expected to survive this, as everything within a day's walk of uniting these two Crux will be absolutely destroyed. Apparently, it's the best time to attack Talus Horn because most of their army is in Thermor, waiting to descend upon Mistfell. You accept the task, claiming that the responsibility of destroying the Crux is your own, but since fucking when? You're just some sort of sap that showed up and has been trying to prevent everything that's been happening anyway, so from the outside you seem pretty incompetent. Corin then tells you that he will join you on your journey, but not now, when you found the Crux. You can open a portal with a viewing glass, and he will come help you put the two Crux together. He tells you in order to get to Amareth, you need to make your way to the merchant port of Edon on the northern tip of Harpoon Bay, so you can secure passage to the Picaroon Isle, which is off the coast of Amareth. He also warns you that you will have to fight off a large number of Toraks, as well as their leader, General Gore, who will be your greatest danger. Oh, is that all, huh? Well, smoke me a kipper, I'll be back for breakfast. Once you reach Edon, you find Ben, the portmaster. When you request to go to Picaroon Isle to stop the Tarax invasion, he's suspicious, but he decides that he can take you there himself for 350 gold. Once at the dock of Picaroon Isle, you just have to travel your way around the island to the continent of Amareth, via a couple of bridges. You just have to fight your way through the Grazelands until you reach Talishorn in the southeastern corner of the continent. You have to fight Tarax Spearmasters and Tarax Legionnaires to get in, and upon entering and making your way through the first room, a gate closes behind you. You're not actually trapped, as you can just press the trap plate again and the gate will open. It's almost like the Tarax were playing Minecraft and put a pressure plate there so creepers wouldn't follow them into Talishorn or something. As you fight your way to the end of the second floor of Talishorn, you find a strange creature in a prison kind of surrounded by electricity a little bit. The creature seems slightly alien to you, but you can pull a lever to open the gate for the enclosure around its prison to speak to it. You realize it's an Oracle as it begins to speak to you directly through your mind. It, like Erebor when you first met him, knows who you are, that you are coming, but this thing knows why you're here. It's saying that you shouldn't finish your quest. The creature's name is Shinna, and it confirms that it is what your people have been referring to as Oracle, and that they have been watching you and guiding your quest. But the one has created a barrier around the region of Mistfell. Were they watching me on the same channel as Gramick? Am I some sort of reality TV star on this fucking world? Is any of this actually happening? I swear to you, if they pull it was all a dream thing, I'm gonna go apeshit. Shinna continues to explain that they purposely got captured to stop you on your quest to destroy the Crux. You find out that the One is an Oracle who is much more powerful than the others, as he's able to control thousands of creatures including General Gore, and by extension the Torax, as well as the Goblins. He disagreed with the objectives of a group of Oracle called the Assembly and has since abandoned it, and essentially caught every living thing on Eschalon in this conflict. Shinna also tells you that the Assembly created the Crius Vindica, but the Guild has failed and the Assembly has been unable to intervene, being that if you go with Corrin's plan and destroy one of the Crux, you destroy the balance of every living thing on Eschalon, and that the Oracle need all 4 Crux intact to return control of Eschalon to the native species, whatever that means. I don't think that there's a force or a balance or whatever the fuck they're talking about at all. I think the Oracle are all just manipulative little shits that are trying to find ways to their ends. I think I liked it better when they didn't exist. You find out the Oracle are not native to Eschalon. They crashed here on a spaceship that they have been attempting to repair, but the power source needed to be protected because other members of the Assembly wanted to build smaller crafts that would leave some Oracle behind. So they split the power source from the spaceship into 4 parts, divided it into the different factions of Eschalon, and established the Crius Vindica to keep it from coming together. The One happens to be one of the ones that has his own ship, and it only requires 2 of the Crux to power it, but he plans to leave the rest of the Oracle behind. The cataclysmic event being caused by the Crux all being brought together was apparently a lie. It was just a way to motivate people to keep them from coming together so the One wouldn't flee. The One's influence on the people and creatures of this land has only served to fulfill that purpose. His departure will not end the already escalating war, so in order to rescue Eschalon, he must be stopped, the war must be averted, and the Oracle must leave to give balance to the peoples of Eschalon. When you ask how you got involved in this mess, Shinna tells you time is short as the enemy has discovered their plan and will destroy their physical body, because shut up, the One can do that. You're told just to recover the Crux of Ages, summon Corrin, and tell him what you have learned. Most importantly, you have to escape with both the Crux of Ages and the Crux of Fire intact. The Assembly will contact you. And after that gigantic garbled info dump, Shinna dies and you're attacked by more Tarax. Upon entering the topmost level of Talishorn, you come across strange machines. If you punch them, they explode and open doors for you. This is how you enter the main arena where the final fight against General Gore takes place. He's a really tough Tarax with a lot of health, but he's not nearly as smart as Corrin would have led you to believe. There are small lava tiles all over the arena, and you can lead him right through them. Even while fleeing after he's taken too much damage, he'll still walk through the lava tiles. Once you kill him and loot the gold key he drops, you can use it to enter the chamber where the Crux of Ages is being held, and use the viewing glass to summon Corrin. He is prepared to quickly bring the stones together, but you reveal the knowledge you have been given that this plan will cause more harm than good. He discounts it as lies, claiming that the enemy has poisoned your mind, but you hold your position that you spoke to an Oracle who told you not to destroy any of the Crux. Corrin decides to believe you, but tells you if he suspects that you are not of your right mind for even a moment, he will strike you down and destroy the Crux himself. Suddenly, the One bursts in. Cue the X-Files music, or maybe the theme from the Unsolved Mysteries? I don't know, that music really freaked me out as a kid. You hear the One's voice in your mind demanding the 2 Crux stones. Corrin screams out not to give them up, but the One pulls out a metallic wand and basically vaporizes him, causing the Crux of Ages to fall to the ground. The One then turns towards you. He obviously means to kill you and take the Crux of Fire, and with that in mind, he points his wand in your direction. In response, you raise the Crux for protection. You fool! That'll never work! The beam from his wand hits the Crux, which causes a flash of light and a crack of thunder. The blast knocks you out, and when you wake up, you're in a totally different place and your equipment is gone. The only thing you have in your possession is the burnt fragments of the clothes on your back and the Crux of Fire. Oh, for fuck's sake, how am I supposed to get a ride home? And that's how Eschalon Book 2 ends. Erebor was barely involved, and Captain Morgan shows up to let you know how he was doing. So the plot seems pretty separate from Eschalon Book 1, but aliens. I still can't get over that. Aliens! And actually, quite a bit of science fiction there at the end. I mean, we had spaceships, we had strange mechanical devices, and metal wands. Whatever. Anyway, tune in next time for what I'm sure you've all been waiting for, the actual review of Eschalon Book 3.